You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, Rifters, welcome to the show. We got a great show. A great Jon Huck is going to be here from Comedy Central, Last Comic Standing, and my personal favorite show, Punk. Jon Huck's going to be here. Alan Lee said he was going to be here, but I don't think he's going to be here because I told him Victor is going to be here, and they're going to fight to the death for the trusty sidekick position. And Alan's like, all right, if my alarm wakes me up, Victor's going to get a fight.
So glad I didn't have to stoop to that low.
Yeah.
We could just go with a good show.
We could just go for a good show. But Victor says I look like the autistic Tim Dillon for the folks at home.
Jesus Christ. I didn't say you look like the autistic Tim Dillon. I said you should hit up Tim Dillon to get him on your podcast and say that you are the autistic Tim Dillon.
Oh, right.
Not that you look like him.
I just ring him on the telephone, right? Ring. What do you want? Oh, no, is that Tim Dillon? Oh, hey.
Dude, that was pretty...
This is Keith Reza. I don't know if you know me, but people think I look like you, and I'm autistic, too. You know, I don't know if you are, but I'm the gay, great autistic Tim Dillon, if you ever want to do Reza Riffs. No, I hate my aunt!
Keith, no joke. If you really wanted to, you could do Tim Dillon impersonations and make fun of him, and you could probably get him on your podcast.
Yeah.
That's so fucking funny. Oh, my God. Dude, he would be offended, too. You're offended. I didn't think you were going to bring it up. You're like, okay, we're going to do opening remarks. But it's like you know, it's funny because you usually throw me under the bus. You just threw yourself under the bus, and I'm just like, okay, cool. But yeah, man,
I figured it was time for a change of pace.
Well, let's do it, bro. Let's
just throw the fucking host under the bus instead of the sidekick.
Yeah, or the guest. No, we have to like exemplify the guest and make them feel at home and welcomed. And then I always feel like you sucker punch these guys in the gut and gals in the gut sometimes. You're like, okay, who the fuck is this guy? Or like, we had that guy. Yeah. No. Your guest are like, who the fuck is this guy when I'm on? Like, remember when somebody was on with their agent, and it's like, who the fuck is that guy? And it's just like, they're probably thinking that about me too. Actually, that was a woman.
Yeah, because you were about to offer him drugs, and his agent was on the right?
Allegedly.
All right, allegedly. Right.
Allegedly. It's so funny how that's my favorite word, allegedly. Because that covers a broad spectrum of...
I want to tell this story because I think it's pretty cool, even though you don't know who he is. So Dave Thomas just emailed me, and he said he'll do Reza Riffs, the great Dave Thomas. And I wrote this guy on his website, but I feel like this was like a fake guy, like not a real guy. You know what I mean? Like I feel like this was Dave Thomas's email address, but he was hiding behind another guy. You know what I mean?
Because it's too good to be true, right?
Yeah. Because his first email says, I just spoke to Sammy Bernard Jr. 4, and I would love to do your podcast.
That's awesome, man. But hold on a second. For the people at home who don't know this, he thought that a very verified Instagram account belonging to Molly Shannon was fucking with Keith just to screw around. And it's like, Keith, you can't fake a verified account. It's either verified or it's not. But if it's verified, it's the real deal. Unless it gets hacked, but they're not going to hack you. They're not going to hack a celebrity SNL alumni to ask you a norm-related question, which you would answer from the heart no matter what, you know, because you want to keep everything as pure and as authentic as possible. So, you know,
the great Jon Huck is in the waiting room. We should let him in.
Absolutely.
All right. I got the burps, man. You ever get the burps?
Yeah, man, it's bad.
Oh, like when you get hiccups and stuff? Like, holy Lord. The great Jon Huck is here.
What's up, guys?
How are you, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. This is the trusty sidekick, Victor.
Victor, how are you, man?
Great. Yourself? How you doing, John?
Good.
So, John, we finally got you on the
Dude,
Zoom
sorry about
show.
that last time. I was everything was like happening at once, and I didn't put it in my calendar right away, and
Right.
I just lost track of it.
Oh, I see you're drinking a cup of Joe. What is that? Coffee, hot chocolate?
It's coffee.
Oh,
Just black.
nice.
Yeah.
Just black?
Mhm.
Yeah. There's always that joke where people say, "Hey, you like your coffee how you like your women." You know, you ever hear that joke?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't that.
Like-
Didn't that start on the movie Airplane?
Yeah. With what's his name? Liam Neeson? No.
Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nelson. Yeah.
Liam Nelson. Taken
Taken.
Naked Gun 3.5 taken.
Yeah. Oh my Lord. But no,
Liam Nielsen.
I like my coffee like the old SNL joke: 2 creams and 1 sugar.
The old SNL joke.
Yeah, that was an old SNL joke.
I guess I don't know that one.
Oh, it was a bad SNL joke if you don't know it. But hey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. How was your gig on Saturday?
It was a lot of fun, actually, man. It was a lot of fun. Have you ever done the Rec Room?
Yeah, I helped book it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I was actually supposed to go for the 10 o'clock show, but I got this thing called COVID.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. So I'm isolating, like, dude, and when you have COVID, first of all, I feel like this could be my last week alive. So congratulations for being the last guest.
Oh, thank you. Makes me feel good.
No pressure. But I feel like, because like I'm isolating from my entire family. I feel like my family hates me. You know, like I come downstairs to use the bathroom. They're like, ah!
Yeah. How many people are in your family?
I have a mom, a dad, a sister, another sister, and a dog. So
all
5.
under the same roof?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I feel like my dog just fucking hates me now because they won't let me touch him, you know? So
Can dogs get it?
I don't know, but like they're very superstitious and stuff.
I don't know about superstitious.
Yeah.
Oh my
Science.
God, Keith. Yeah, I think dogs could get it because my dog got a vaccine for COVID before me or my wife. So it's like, how does this dog have her vaccine before us?
Wow.
She got it. Yeah. So, and you get dogs sick, man. One time my wife had strep throat and she gave it to our dog, and $900 later, it was really. Oh, and like 22 to 25 dog or private vets, hospitals, everything. Nobody was taking new customers or new patients. It was heart-wrenching.
Oh, man.
See, that's why I want a cat, because I could get the cat sick and not care about it.
I got a cat. I would be devastated if I got my cat sick.
All right, I'm 0 from 2 today. Yes, excellent.
So cats are cool, man. Cats sometimes.
Yeah, I love
make
cats. I was just making a bad cat joke. I mean, jeez. They call me Cat Man. Like I have so many cats. But
I actually played a guy named Catman in a TV show once. That was just a dude who went around like swiping cats and like rescuing them.
Oh, how much did you get paid for that one?
Oof, it was. I love to discuss my paychecks. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a great. Let's get right into that.
I'm just saying that seems like a great payday.
It was a YouTube show. It was like, what was it called? Like, not Clarissa Explains It All, because that was a TV show from a long time ago. But it was something. Liza Delivers or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Now, John, do you think like because you're one of the only comics I know that goes on headlining weeks during these tough times. You know what I mean? Like, is that easy for you?
No, and actually, I've just started to get back out there, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I 2020 was pretty much a wash, except I mean the very beginning. I was out on the road a lot, February and early March, and then nothing, and just a few shows here and there in 2021, like towards the end,
Yeah.
and then this year getting back out there, you know. And yes, I get it that the numbers are high and it's not exactly over.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I wear my mask on the airplane, if I wear my mask in the airport, if I, you know, I'm vaccinated, I have a booster. Um,
Me too, man.
I'm as safe as I could be. Yeah, I know. And then
Yeah.
people are still getting it, right? So,
Yeah.
I just try to be as safe as I can be, and I try to only do shows that are gonna sort of care about their staff and like
Yeah.
do the right thing by all them.
Yeah. I remember when the first lockdown happened, because like my career, I've always had trouble selling out. You know what I mean? And when the first
Well,
lockdown happened, they said, okay, we're going to open up for 25% capacity. I'm like, all right, back to
yeah,
business.
that's what I thought. I thought I was like, that's what I was like, oh, great, it's gonna look like a full house. Like, sorry, this is all the tickets. We can only give out these 10 tickets. So thanks for being here, guys. So yeah, I don't sell out. I don't sell out at all. It's a stark. Like I feature for a comic named Dan Cummins a lot, and
Yeah.
he is on fire. So like his crowds are, you know, he's selling out theaters.
Uh,
So I do that with him, and it's like, yeah, that's your crowd. And then I go off and do my own thing. I'm like, here we go, back to reality.
do you still work with Harlan?
Every once in a while, I haven't for a little while. Probably not since 2019, but
Yeah.
we've talked about working out some dates here and there. So I hope
Yeah.
that that'll happen again. He's such a fun dude to work with.
I remember you were telling me you got that job because you met him at an audition.
We were both auditioning for the same part in Sebastian Maniscalco's pilot.
Yeah.
He had a pilot with like I want to say NBC. I'm sure he's had a few. He's the kind of guy I can see networks throwing money at, seeing what'll stick, you know, because he's got that. He's a very relatable, very funny, ball busting kind of guy. So, but we were both in the hallway, essentially just sitting in chairs, and he walked into an empty office and sat down. And so I went in and did my audition, and when I was leaving, I saw him and I was like, "Oh, you got a job here already? Like, is that how long you've been waiting?" And he didn't even like miss a beat. He like picked up the phone. He's like, "Yeah, come on in, have a seat." And I sat down. And he's like, "So," and he starts asking me all these questions about if I were to work there, like if he would hire me, you know. And we just started doing a little bit of that. And then I was like, you know, because I hadn't worked with him before, but I was very early on when I started doing stand up. He showed up at a show I was at and went on last, you know, and it
Yeah.
was a big deal at the time. Like I wasn't doing shows where people were popping in, you know. And
Yeah.
I just mentioned that to him and talked about how nice he was even back then. And we laughed about some shit. And then I was like, hey, you know, if you just on the off chance you ever need a feature, because I had just started emailing people that I thought were my buddies and being
Right.
like, hey, I'm trying to get out on the road more. I could use some feature work. None of those people got back to me.
Right.
Dan Cummins, Harlan Williams got back to me immediately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and Harlan works with a bunch of different people. You know, he's got whoever I'm sure feels like having with him on the weekend. He'll hire. But I was lucky enough to get to do multiple shows with the man last couple of years.
Do you think like that's kind of because like I know what that's like where you do a show and like you go on last and like someone big is on the show, but then like I know a lot of comics who are on that show, like say if you do Harvell's in Long Beach or something and you do your set and then for example say, oh, Jeff Garcia showed up and he did 10 minutes, the comics on that show will be like, hey, I just fucking opened up for Jeff Garcia, and they use that
Look,
as a credit. And
I
Jeff's
have
like, who the fuck is this guy?
I have seen people use credits that would people. I knew someone who was in the audience of Biggest Loser,
Right.
and use that as because the camera panned the audience for like a shot, but use that like when people would bring him on stage, you might recognize this guy from Biggest Loser, and of course everyone's like, I don't think so. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even like when people say things I was legitimately in because I'm in them for such a brief amount of time that
Right.
there was like, you might remember this guy from Superstore. I'm like, nobody remembers me from nobody remembers me. Okay. They're looking at me, they go, you kind of look like a guy I kind of know. Like they think they've seen me in a thing, or they think I'm Chris Elliott, or they think I'm Brian Posehn. But
Right.
like very rarely are they like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Season 2, episode 6. It's like, what? I'm not
I
like the
was
star of any of these shows. I don't have recurrings. I'm just like in these little bit tiny things, and it's like I like doing that. It's what I'm trying to do
yeah.
more of. But to say that people would remember me from it is really giving people a lot of credit with what they're doing with their memory.
I was binge watching Ozark, you know.
Oof! Don't
And
spoil it. I haven't watched the end yet.
yeah, but I was binge watching it because I got COVID, and I thought for sure for the first season you were in it. And I was telling my mom, I was like, "That's my friend. That's Jon Huck." And
No, was one of the Hicks? One of the Hicks?
yeah,
Yeah,
but he was like one of the bad Hicks. Like he was
yeah.
in I was like, I'm about to interview him on Razor Wrist. My parents don't even believe I have a podcast. But so, yeah,
They just
so I
think
was
you're
like,
up in your room yelling at people.
yeah.
It's nothing's plugged in. Just leave him be. He has COVID. Don't talk to him.
That's exactly. You have been talking to my mom.
They called me they asked me if I could get them tickets to the next taping of Ozark, filmed in front of a live studio audience.
They're just using you so they could use that as a credit.
We talked to our son. He interviewed the guy from Ozark, so we were on Ozark. You might remember this nut set of parents from a podcast.
The Ozark podcast, the fans.
I'm sure there is one.
I'm sure there is too,
yeah.
man.
Well, there has to be one.
It's at this point,
Definitely.
it's like when there used to be a magazine for everything, now there's like a YouTube video for everything and a podcast for everything.
Well, see, that was what I was going to ask you, because like when podcasts first came around, I remember you were one of the big guests, like you were always doing them. You know what I mean? And now there's everyone and their mother has them. Like,
I mean, I don't know that I was like a big guest anywhere.
But I saw you at LA Talk Radio at least, because that's where the show used to do it. I saw you there at least twice a month.
Well, was that because there was a guy who had a show on the radio, like a sports show, and I would go sit in there like every couple of weeks. He would have me and a couple other comics sit in and just kind of shoot the shit about sports or whatever. I've done a bunch of that kind of stuff, but I never as a big guest or a get, just more like, hey man, we got a free chair and a microphone if you want to talk into it about whatever, baseball or hockey or whatever sport was happening at the time. I like when podcasts first started, I was a little bit wary. It was kind of like when any of the new social media platforms would start. Like I saw MySpace and I was like, that's weird. And then I sort of started an account, but like kind of try to keep myself hidden in a way. And then Facebook got popular and I was like, oh man, another thing. And then, Twitter, and I was like, what is this? And then it was like Instagram. And then, I'm very wary of all this stuff. Kind of like, what are these platforms for? Like, when they start, they're just one thing and they morph into this other thing. And podcasts, I was like, how many opinions do we need? Like, how many people do we need to listen to? When people kept asking me if I was going to do a podcast, I was like, what do I have to say that isn't already being said?
Yeah.
It turns out nothing, but I like to hear myself talk. No, I did a podcast with a comic that was like sports based, and that was easy because he did. I always tell whoever if I'm co-hosting with somebody, I will say like my strengths are not in the tech aspect. I don't know anything about the technical. Like I can't do a podcast on my own. I need somebody else there, to do everything.
You need a Victor.
I don't know. It looks like Victor's sitting in his car, so I don't know if like is he driving away from the podcast? What Victor,
Yeah,
what
I
are
don't
you
know. I
doing
think he's
from your?
tried to.
No, I'm not. I'm enjoying this. Are you kidding
You're like
me?
out.
I'm
You're
really
out in
I'm
Keith's
baked
parking
as
lot.
fuck. I'm just outside. No,
You're
I'm
on his
outside.
driveway.
No,
He's out my driveway because I have COVID. I said,
Yeah.
hey, you can't come in.
But I can run these cables out to you. I was doing I did a podcast called Speaking Highly for a couple episodes during the pandemic, and it was when, you didn't want to touch anybody or you didn't want anyone coming over to your house, and the guy, like the producer of the podcast, dropped off all the gear into like this bucket that I lowered down off my balcony, and I
Right.
just like pulled it up, and like I was getting like groceries brought in and out, and my weed was delivered that way. I was like, oh, this is great, because my balcony is like right up front, so I just go out, stand there, throw the bucket down, and pull it up, and then
Yeah.
go crazy.
I used to do this job. I think it was like Instacart or Postmates or something. And what you would do is you would pick up people's shit and you would deliver it to their house. And I used to hate people who lived in like apartments that were like 4 stories high and you couldn't park.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So I just usually just left it on the sidewalk and text them and be like, go get it.
yeah. At a certain point, though, to me, that's acceptable. Like, I can't expect you to get out of your car, come up 4 flights of stairs
For a
with like,
$2 tip.
well, exactly. We did have everything delivered at the beginning, but we were very generous about it because we knew how shitty it must have been to be out there,
Right. I wanted to ask you about your experience on Last Comic Standing, because I saw you there and I saw you do your set and seemed like it was a bad experience for you.
Yeah, I would say it was a bad experience for me. Actually, I wouldn't say bad, because when you look at all that stuff in hindsight, it's very funny,
Right.
Um, Last Comic Standing wouldn't have changed my life, and it was comical the way the show is. It's different every incarnation, like when it first started, it was almost like a competition reality show, right? They would have to go out and
When
do weird
Jay
things.
did it, like it was they were in the house, right?
Yeah, yes, they were in the house for like 2 seasons. They did it that way, right? Like, I can't
Yeah.
remember, Dat Fan was the first winner, and then somebody
That
else
was a
the second
huge
season.
surprise.
Actually, I saw that sort of called out episode 1 by Doug Stanhope.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was working on the Man Show as an associate producer when Doug and Joe were the hosts,
Oh,
and
Oh wow.
the night that show was premiering, we were shooting something on a stage, and Doug was the guy we were shooting with, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to send the PAs for some beers and watch this Last Comic Standing?" And I was like, "I was gonna go home and watch it anyway, so yeah, sure."
yeah.
And I'm a huge Stanhope fan, so it was kind of like, woo, hanging out with
You watch a comedy show with your comedy eye.
Yeah, man, it was it was very cool for me. But the first thing they showed Dat Fan, and he was talking about his upbringing and stuff, and then I believe there were tears. He was crying about he'd had it rough, and Doug was like, "Oh, he'll win," because he cried, and I was like, "Well, that's not." And then boom, he won. But also, I feel like early on that show was a little predetermined. And I
Right.
also feel like later on that show is a little predetermined. They like not I want to say not in a bad way, but it wasn't done as legitimately as I think it should have been done. And that's not saying I should have advanced or I should be somehow further along because of that show, but like I knew for a fact there were people that were brought in, and we knew they were going to pass. You know what I mean? We knew they were going to get to the next round. So, and again, it's a TV show, it's a business. It's for ratings. I get it. And comedy is such a subjective art form that judging it is comedy in itself. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, definitely. I think that's why.
what I think is
they have
funny. Well,
judges.
who the fuck are you? Like,
Yeah.
and even human being alive. I mean, Norm Macdonald told me it looked like probably a month.
Right. Are you there, John? John, it says your network branded is low.
It's all very formulaic in hindsight.
Oh, John's back. Are you there?
Oh, did I go away?
Yeah, it said your John's network was low. Are you there?
Ooh, low.
Okay, I
Yeah,
see you now.
I'm got full bars.
Okay, I see you now. You see me?
Yeah.
All right. So the last
Yeah,
thing I remember you talking about was judging comedy as funny itself. And then, yeah.
Yeah. Something about Norm Macdonald. That was the last thing I heard.
He was the guy. He had said after Anthony Jeselnik was the guy on the, with the mic on the stage.
Was the co-host.
Yeah. And, they line you up. You do, first of all, I did 3 minutes after the audience had been there since like 9 a.m. And I went on at probably 8 p.m., 7 p.m. And it was after, I was like I was the first comic after like a 25-minute break. Everything was not ideal,
Right.
And so I went out there and I did okay. They were jokes that I felt should have worked. Obviously,
Right.
I chose my set according to what I was going to be doing. And it was Norm, Roseanne, and Keenan Ivory Wayans. And Norm was like, Anthony, you stand there next to Anthony and then they're like, all right, Norm, what did you think? And Norm was like, it looks like you don't even want to be here. And I wanted to say, well, you should see your face.
Right.
Because like, no way was he stoked.
Oh no, dude. Because at that time I was Norm's assistant and I would drive him to the studio and he would always be like, I don't want to fucking do this. And he would fall asleep during the, you know what I mean? So
which at the time I was unaware of. And had I used my brain even a little bit about my, if I could have used my understanding of the entertainment industry up to that point, I would have known that he was specifically brought in to say the things that the other people wouldn't say.
Yeah.
And good for him. Get your money. I shouldn't have cared. But
right.
it bothered me because I'm a huge Norm fan.
Yeah.
So I, of course, want Norm to like my comedy.
100%. I get that.
But he didn't have anything constructive to say. So in hindsight, he didn't really care. He probably didn't even listen.
Right.
And Roseanne was like, I don't know what she said because I was blacking out with rage from Norm not liking my set. And then Keenan Ivory Wayans was the only one who gave me like advice, that made sense. He was like, look, man, I liked your material. He disagreed with the other two judges. He goes, well, first of all, I disagree. I think it looks like he wants to be here. But I think if you're only doing 3 minutes, tell the jokes and move on. Because I had tags, and each joke had like a tag and then a tag and then a tag. And it was like too much. It was too much for 3 minutes. And he was dead on. You know what I mean? That was solid advice from Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, in hindsight, they're just getting paid to they're getting paid to judge comedy. It's ridiculous. That's a crazy, like, that was good, says you, and then this person over here is not laughing at all. You know what I mean? It's like,
I think it's one of those double-edged sword shows because one, I think it helps comedy because it gives comics who will never get on late night or anything like that legitimate TV credit. And then exposure.
Yeah. The Middle America watches Last Comic Standing. That show is for Middle America. So when they kind of craft who gets through, it's either because they know that person will do well in those areas or because they think those areas should see this person.
Right.
Does that make sense? And I'm just, and not to like dumb it down, but like Midwest has seen its share of white guys with beards. It's not like
all they have to do is watch Ozark.
To see me, yeah. And other people think I'm in Cobra Kai, which I'm not.
Oh, you're in Cobra Kai too?
No.
Oh.
But people are convinced that there was a scene that I was in. They're like, yeah, we went and beat up Johnny. I'm like, that wasn't me.
Oh, I was going to say, I love Cobra Kai.
Yeah, so do I. That's how I knew it wasn't me.
When the whole Will Smith thing happened, like you see all these
what happened with Will Smith?
he like slapped Chris Rock. You know what I mean?
What?
Yeah, you didn't hear about this?
I'm kidding. Yeah.
Oh no, you did? Okay. But when this happened, everyone was making all these jokes and stuff, and I'm just thinking, oh, this is bad for Cobra Kai because Will Smith produces it, you know?
Well, you could get him out of the mix in Cobra Kai. I don't think he's creatively influencing the show in any way. I mean, he might have been like a
His
name that
name,
said,
though.
yeah, sure. But now Cobra Kai is a money-making machine. You can boot him. You
Yeah.
don't need Will Smith's name anymore.
I think it's interesting that you were a producer on the Man Show. Like, explain to the folks at home, like, what's that? Because, like,
I had worked the very first season of Punk'd at MTV as
but you were a guy who was playing the jokes on people, right?
no, I mean I ended up getting into the show because
Yeah.
I was there the whole time, and Ashton and his partner Jason recognized like I was also a stand-up and I was an actor and I did all those kind of things. So, but no, I started on Punk'd. I started on Jamie Kennedy, the Jamie Kennedy Experiment,
Right.
as a production assistant. There were 2 or 3 people who were producers on Jamie Kennedy that went to Punk'd to help get that off the ground, and they took me with them. They promoted me, and I was an associate producer. The woman who was my immediate boss, the segment producer above me, her name was Sam Brenzel. She's like a powerhouse. She's a fantastic producer. I learned quite a bit from her. But she then got a job on the Man Show when we were down, because seasons like Punk'd ended, and there was all this time before we didn't even know if it was coming back. So we all had to go find different jobs.
Yeah.
We kept in touch. She got hired onto the Man Show. She hired me as her AP, associate producer. So that's what I was doing there for that last. It was just one season because Joe and Doug were only there for one season, and it was just that. Yeah. So I mean, it was fun. It was cool. I got to be around like Brian Posehn was a writer for a half a second. Like Frank Sebastiano was a writer on the show. Like some really big, like Frank used to write Weekend Update. Like there was some.
He also wrote Dirty Work.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, and then like Steve Lookner, who was an SNL writer, and then of course Doug and Joe, and then I think Greg Fitzsimmons was there for a half a second.
Oh.
It was a rotating, like Bonnie McFarlane was there. Tom Giannis was the director, kind of the talent and comedy, and he was like big Second City guy and just a super smart, funny dude.
So it was like Wednesday night at the Comedy Store.
Well, it was, to me, it was bigger because especially back then, Wednesday night at the Comedy Store back then was nothing. It was like a dark hole. But
right.
But it was like, everybody had kind of not grown up, but like I was a fan of all these people. You know what I mean? It was the most it was the most kind of comedy I'd worked around at one time. And the talent was, it far outweighed the final product. Those guys were cut off at the knees at every possible turn, either by the big wigs, the network execs, or by us in production saying, hey, we can't do this. Like, this isn't fair, safe, legal. I mean, they had some really funny ideas that everything gets watered down in the end. And, I don't know that Doug Stanhope is a primetime TV kind of guy, not that the Man Show was prime time, but I don't think either of them were super excited to be there. I think it was kind of a paid vacation, or at least a paid, I don't know, study hall or something. I don't know. It was like they got to be around their friends. That's the only thing I can think that.
It seemed like the Man Show did lose its juice once Jimmy Kimmel left. And then maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they started this show, they created the show, they built it, and then it had just a different vibe with Doug and Joe. They're not Jimmy and Adam.
Right.
It was a different type of Man Show.
Yeah. They should have named it The Boys Show.
Well, they should have just let those guys do something else, because Doug, like I think most of the monologues, I think most of the monologues are the opening, not the cold opens. I don't know what you'd want to call them, but I think those were all written by Doug.
Yeah.
Or at least the majority of them, straight out of kind of lifted from his stand up and his ideas,
Victor, you got a question for the great Jon Huck?
Yeah,
Like I'm a
absolutely. I got a
magician.
couple questions.
Yeah.
Well, he's giving me the evil eyes. Like, Keith, shut up. I want to ask.
Dude, I didn't give you the evil eye, dude. You fucking thing. I don't even know. John, I have a question. So I saw you on Comedy Central's This Is Not Happening. And you talk about an incident where you got really drunk in another country. I don't want to give it away. But I wanted to ask you, as a storyteller, what advice would you give to a stand-up comedian who's beginning to tell stories on stage?
Well, um, that that Germany story is what it's called on my album. It's called the Germany story. So you're not giving anything away by saying where I was, but that story just happened to like that happened to me. And then I came back to the States and I went to visit some friends at the school that I went to in northern Wisconsin, or I had gone to. I'd graduated already. And as I was at the bar with a couple of them, one guy was like, "Hey, how was Europe? You know, how was it over there?" I go, "Oh man, you want to hear something crazy that happened to me in Germany?" And he was like, "Yeah." And by the end of that story, because I told him that story as like how it happened, how I remembered it, how it played out, every detail that I could remember, which was still very fresh because it was like it had happened like a week and a half earlier at that point, you know.
Right.
By the end of me telling that story, I was sort of standing up on my stool, like the rungs of the stool, and like the rest of the bar was listening. And this dude was like crying. So I was like, oh, that was like sort of my first inkling that maybe I could turn some of this dumb shit I've done into comedy. Because a friend of mine, when it happened to me, one of the guys I was traveling with was like, yeah, I wouldn't tell anyone that. And I think that would be my advice is that learn, be as honest as you can be, because there are people that are embarrassed by, I mean, and as we should be, like, embarrassed by the dumb shit that we do. But at the same time, there's humor to be found in it. And if you can be honest with who you are and like admit your shortcomings or admit your mistakes and not have to be, I don't want to say the hero, but not have to come out looking like the golden child or anything. You know, it's like I guess honesty is what I would say is be as honest as you can. And then as you're learning, you're getting your voice, you're on stage, you're starting out, you're telling stories. Um, be honest, and then know when to like throw something in here and there, embellish a little bit, or but don't overdo that and try to make the story as real and relatable because you want people to laugh and either think, at least for me, I want people to laugh and go, okay, well, at least I'm not that guy,
Yeah.
or like I've done some stuff that dumb, like I've done a couple of AA rooms, stand up, and I used to do Mick Bencourt used to have this room called Radford Hall. It was this really nice hall. It was a massive AA meeting, and then they would have comedy afterwards. And the first time I did it, I was like, "Hey, Mick, I don't know, man. All my stories are about like pissing my pants and drinking and drugs." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. That's why you're here, dude. Get out there." And they loved
They
it.
love that
They
humor too.
love it, dude, because they have been to rock bottom, and that's why they're in AA.
Mhm.
And they have seen and done crazier and weirder shit. So to hear somebody else do it and be able to turn it into funny, I mean, that's, and in no way would I ever compare myself to Richard Pryor, but that's the beauty of what Richard Pryor does. What he is so honest with his storytelling, and he puts himself out there, and he is the person he's talking about.
Yeah.
Some like one of the better compliments I've gotten is, "Oh, you're like almost the same as you are on stage, off stage." It's like, yeah, I'm not doing a character when I'm up there. I'm me. I'm just trying to talk about things that I know, I feel, I think, I like. Um, but
Do
yeah,
you?
I'd say honesty would be be as honest as you can. Don't be afraid to look like a complete idiot. And then, work on the stories, like tell them over and over again. It's kind of like You ever seen Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they make Tim Roth, he makes Tim Roth learn that story about going to the commode with the drugs. So it's like everything just comes off supernatural, you know? And it's kind of like that. It's like just tell your friends over and over, you know. I mean, I wrote that story out a bunch of times. I
Wait,
submitted
you
it to
wrote that
Playboy.
movie?
No,
Oh,
the story
okay.
that the Germany story. Yeah, I
Oh,
wrote
I
Reservoir
thought you wrote.
Dogs.
Oh yeah,
I wrote Reservoir Dogs. I'm 106.
I was like, holy Lord, man, I'm finding all this interesting stuff. Ozark, you
Yes,
wrote that
Cobra
movie?
Kai, Reservoir Dogs. I was in The Godfather, Apocalypse Now. I was Quint in Jaws. I was the alien in E.T. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah. I'm
I
so
was the
glad
stunt
we're
double for the
friends,
very
because if we
end.
weren't friends, I think you'd hit me by now. But no, John, I wanted to ask you, like, I agree with you on the honesty thing, but do you think, like, because when you do stand up, like, I could tell when I see other comics, I could tell comics who are not being honest in the stories they say, like they make up, where you know that never happened to them. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's just because I have Asperger's and I could tell, but I think it's a cheap way to try and get a laugh when people try to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my style.
Yeah.
You know, I do know people who, you know, I've seen comics who are full on just telling jokes, meaning they'll tell a joke about themselves and their girlfriend. In that same set, they'll tell a joke about themselves not having a girlfriend. In
Yeah.
that same set, they'll tell a joke about their wife. In that same set, they'll tell, you know, it's like they're clearly just doing
Oh,
that for comedic effect and just telling jokes. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't think they're trying to pass those stories off as themselves. I do know people who just, you know, write interesting stories and will use them on stage. I think I like to think that I can tell too, but if you go to that "This Is Not Happening" on YouTube and you go like 7 comments down in the comments section, it's one guy like fake, never happened, and like, you know, there are people that think my story is fake.
Right.
I don't know how I would write something like that or even conceive of doing something like that and thinking, oh, this will be a good story. Like to me, it wouldn't have been a good story if it wasn't real. There'd be
Yeah.
no way I would have never created that. There'd be no way for me to think, what if I drank so much that I had to poop and I went into an alley and then I walked out of that alley with no pants. And then like it's like I wouldn't have come up with that without doing it. It's too dumb of a story. Unless
No,
it's
definitely.
happened in real life, there's no way it would make sense on stage. To me,
And I
personally.
think like that's why that story particular, but like you know, I know you have a lot of other stories. Like I
Oh yeah,
think
I'm a
like
dum dum.
no, but I think like that's what makes your humor so honest, is because even though it's a quirky story, they actually happened. So that's how you could pull it off. And like these guys who comment fake, it's like they don't know what actually happened, and you're telling what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also, you know, I don't know what I was going to say. I think I was going to try to say that
I think you're gonna. I think you're gonna say, Keith, I love you very much.
well, that was I was saving that for the end, but yeah, let's throw that in the middle. But just the idea, like even you know, if fake or not fake, it's like you know, some people aren't amazing storytellers, but they're great joke tellers.
Right.
You know, most of what I do, like if I'm doing a longer set, if I'm headlining, it usually starts out with some quicker jokes, but I set myself up to kind of have everything sort of turn back on me so that everyone is like, I never try to come off as better than the audience
Right.
unless it's clearly part of the joke, you know. And then by the end, I can sort of make fun of other people without it being like, who does this guy think he is? I mean, get a
Right.
load of him, you know, because they've already heard who I think I am. They're like,
Yeah.
well, he thinks he's an idiot, so here's another group of people that, you know, he's that are probably better than him, but he's mad at, or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making any sense at this point, but
No, it makes sense. It
I
totally
had a
makes sense.
point to make about the storytelling and people thinking it's fake, but I can't remember what it is because it really it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as there are great actors who are great comedians who can sell it, and if you can sell it and the audience doesn't feel that it's fake, then, you know.
It's interesting you said that about the actors. Do you think, like, because I feel stand-up comedians can be great actors, but I feel actors aren't ever going to be good stand-ups. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I wouldn't say ever, but of 99.9%, I'm in total agreement with you. I mean, the my dad told me this a long time ago, but when you see like Jackie Gleason, like I watched a lot of Honeymooners as a kid because it was on reruns. My dad had some on film, but there's a movie called Soldier in the Rain that he did with Steve McQueen,
Right.
and there's comedic stuff in it, but it's a dramatic movie, and Jackie Gleason's character is dramatic, and I'm like, holy cow, what a great actor he is. He can do comedy and drama. And my dad was like, well, he was funny first, and then he could do drama. Whereas the other way around doesn't always translate. Like Christian Bale can't be in like, dude, where's my car to? You know what I mean? Like there's just no there, and that's not to say it doesn't exist. Like John Lithgow can be deadly serious and then very funny. But I think first and foremost, he's a funny guy who can pull off the deadly serious,
Yeah.
I think it doesn't if you're a dramatic actor but you're not a funny person, I don't think any kind of acting training is going to set you up to be good in comedy.
Yeah.
Whereas people who are funny and comedic turn to dramatic roles all the time. One of the things I had always kind of thought would be interesting is if Chris Farley had been able to make that Fatty Arbuckle movie, because that would have been a very dramatic role, and I think Farley would have knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Like Jim Carrey can be dramatic. You know what I mean? It's almost like there's a darkness on a lot of comedians that they can bring out for dramatic roles.
Well, it's also like Tom Hanks. He's now known for being drama, but in the beginning of his career, he was one of the funniest guys. Yeah.
Bachelor Party, the first like 6 times he hosted SNL, it was like, I mean, to me, the Saturday Night Live thing cemented that guy as a comedic legend.
Oh yeah.
But he was also in these hilarious movies. Like even The Man with One Red Shoe is like, it's comedic,
Yeah. And then like my dad asked me, he's like, hey, what happened to Tom Hanks? Because he used to be so funny and now he's not funny. And I was like, here's what happened to Tom Hanks. He met Barry Sobel.
But I think Tom Hanks is still funny. What does Barry Sobel have to do with it?
Oh no, because Barry Sobel took his funny away. You know what I mean? He's like, Victor, you got any last second questions for the great Jon Huck?
Yeah, I have a question. So you've done Just for Laughs and you've had some recordings, and I was wondering, do you have any advice for anyone who's auditioning who is super nervous, or any pointers or pre-rituals or pre-performance rituals or anything?
I don't. I feel like the advice I would want to give would be, don't get too hung up on that stuff. Like don't like the TV spots are nice, they kind of add a validity to what you're doing. They can show you, hey, look, mom, I'm doing something, but comedy is really not about that. If you can keep getting into rooms and getting on stage and connecting with an audience, then you're doing it. And I feel like people shouldn't put such emphasis, or they shouldn't stress out so hard about TV spots. I'd like to say just treat them like they're any other spot, but I'd be lying if I said that's what I did. I remember when I did Live at Gotham, which was 1,000 years ago at this point, I was very nervous. It was going to be my first TV spot. It was 10 minutes. They were going to cut it down. I wanted certain jokes in for sure. I wasn't sure how to make sure they all got in. And I was sort of sweating in the green room. And then I think Kyle Kinane walked in, flipped open a cooler, cracked a beer, and he was like, hey, why lie about how we got here? And I was like, dude, thank you. And like, it took him to sort of put me at ease, and I don't think that's what he was trying to do. He was just being himself. But I like Kyle, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. If he's being calm, I can be calm, and that sort of took the edge off for me. So I would say if you can bring a friend who makes you comfortable and you're doing a TV spot or you're auditioning somewhere, just try to have fun before you're going on so it carries onto the stage. So, and not in a way like drink 15 beers, but like you're in a good mood already. Don't sit and just freak out about what you're going to do. Like, it's important to be rehearsed and know what you want to do. But before you go on, just be as loose as you can and like not put too much stress on yourself, because in the end it's out of your control. Even if you have the best set of your life, that doesn't mean that the people are going to go, that's the right person for this, or we want this person to do this. It doesn't. You never know. So all you can do is what you do, and then it's in the hands of somebody else.
Yeah, that's why, Victor, if you ever get like a TV set thing, you should never bring Barry Sobel with you.
What is all this Barry Sobel hate? I like Barry.
No, did you ever see Punchline?
Oh, okay. You're going off the movie. I'm like, what did Barry ever do to Tom Hanks? Like, how did I miss that? Like, I literally just saw Barry the other day. It's like, I would have been like, hey man, back off Tom Hanks, dude. Keith's dad doesn't think he's funny anymore. Yeah, your reference was lost on me, by the way. I forgot all about that movie.
But John, I wanted to say that I love you and thank you for doing this, man.
Oh man, thanks for having me.
And in a way, I'm kind of glad we did it over Zoom because I have COVID and I wouldn't want to get sick.
Yeah, me too. Me and Victor are glad we did it this way as well. Yeah.
Very glad.
No, let's get into a tight, confined space and then open mouth kiss before the thing, and then
let's go back to LA Talk Radio and hey, make sure you have COVID. That's
and get in this glass bubble together.
John, where can the folks at home follow and support you?
If you go to my website, jonhuck.me, JONHUCK.me, it's got my dates for coming up in the Midwest. I'm going to be in Wisconsin, Chicago, Southern Illinois, and Minneapolis, and I got some Northern California dates at the end of May. And then the rest of my year will fill out after that. But I would say the website is probably the best way to follow me and figure out what's going on.
All right. Well, everyone follow Jon Huck, guys. John, thanks for being here. Subscribe, rate, review to the show, and we'll see you guys next week.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.